At my sister's engagement dinner, she stood up, tapped her champagne glass, and said, "Hey sis, hope you've got a new apartment lined up because we're selling mom's condo to pay for the wedding." Everyone at the table laughed. My new brother-in-law, a finance bro named Chad, actually high-fived her. I just took a sip of my water, excused myself, and sent a single text message. 5 minutes later, all hell broke loose. See, 3 years ago, mom got laid off. She didn't want anyone to worry, so she kept quiet and burned through her savings. By the time I found out, the bank was literally days away from taking the condo. Sarah, my golden child sister, was finding herself in Bali at the time, living off dad's life insurance. I, on the other hand, had just sold my startup shares, so I bought the condo, paid the bank entirely in cash. I set up a trust, put the deed in it, and told mom to just pay what she could in rent so she could keep her dignity. I paid the HOA fees. I paid the property taxes. When the AC died last August in the middle of a heat wave, that miraculous anonymous landlord fix was me. Sarah, meanwhile, had been living there rent-free since she got back from Bali, constantly making snide comments about how I needed to get a real job instead of just playing on computers. When I walked back to the table, Chad was already pulling up real estate comps on his phone. "We can easily get $600,000 for it," he was saying, running his hand through his perfectly gelled hair. "We'll do a quick flip, paint it gray, and boom. First-class honeymoon to the Maldives, babe." Sarah was practically vibrating with excitement. "And we can use the rest for the down payment on that house in the hills." Mom just looked down at her plate. She hated conflict, and she always let Sarah walk all over her. "Actually," I said, pulling my chair back out, "you might want to hold off on those first-class tickets." Sarah rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on, Chloe. Don't be bitter just because you can't afford to buy us out." "I'm not bitter," I said, resting my elbows on the table. "I just think it's going to be really hard to sell a property that you don't actually own." The table went dead silent. Even the waiter refilling water glasses froze. Chad scoffed. "What are you talking about? Mom owns it. We already talked to a broker." "Mom owned it," I corrected, my voice completely steady. Past tense. 3 years ago, she defaulted. Mom turned ghost white. "Chloe, please." "Mom, it's okay," I said softly to her, before turning back to Sarah and Chad. "The bank foreclosed. It was sold." Sarah stood up, knocking her chair back. "You're lying! We would have known! Who the hell bought it then?" I picked up my phone, sliding it across the table. It displayed the public property records. "A trust," I said, watching Chad lean in to read it. "The CMD Revocable Trust." Chad squinted. "Who is CMD?" I looked Sarah dead in the eyes. I watched the exact moment her brain finally connected my initials, Chloe Marie Davis, to the paperwork. Her mouth dropped open. She looked like she'd been slapped. "Yeah," I whispered, leaning in. "I bought it, with cash, and you've been living in my guest room for 2 years, criticizing my career while I paid the light bill." Chad looked from the phone to Sarah, to me, completely speechless. "So," I said, standing up and throwing my napkin on the table, "about that new apartment. I hear the market is really tough right now. You two better start packing."